Welcome to Psychological Explorations with Dr. Michael Axelman and Daniela. Today we explore the remarkable book by Barbara Reed Stitt, Food and Behavior, A Natural Connection. Barbara Reed Stitt started her work with young adults and youth as a probationer in Ohio. She rose to the rank of chief probation officer in her county and then went on to receive a Ph.D. in nutrition. So many remarkable findings. I quote one of them here. She found that 60% of the members of families containing hyperactive children who were referred into her care had diabetes, obesity, or alcoholism, all sugar-based problems. We explore today the influence of sugar, highly processed foods, and other issues related to behavior and diet. Let's move now to the topic of nourishment and malnourishment. Malnourishment and physical and mental health. A malnourished central nervous system will inevitably lead to serious physical and behavioral problems, problems which no amount of medication or psychiatry can help. The functioning of the brain is dependent on its composition and structure. That is, on the molecular environment of the mind. This is from Linus Pauling, who became quite famous reporting on his findings about taking high doses and extremely high doses of vitamin C, and one of the founders of the field of orthomolecular psychiatry. He wrote one of the early edited volumes in the field, along with Dale Hawkins. Barbara Reed Stitt, in her text, quotes from George M. Gould, MD, who wrote a review of all the reviews, and this was back in 1910. And I quote, "For several years it's been growing clearer to me that many patients do not get well because they live too exclusively on sugary and starchy foods. Children exhibit the morbid tendency by excessive nervousness, denutrition, ease of becoming ill, and by many vague and warning symptoms. I have asked parents of such children to stop them in their use of all sweets and most starches, and almost immediately there was a most gratifying disappearance of the nervousness, fickleness of appetite, colds, and vague manifold ailments. The boy who was morbidly nervous, almost insanely active, ate no meats, eggs, vegetables, etc., lived practically on cakes, little breakfast foods with enormous quantities of syrups and sugars. Recovery followed a diet list which excluded sweets." So the field of orthomolecular psychiatry, two of the founders of the orthomolecular approach, Abram Hoffer and Humphrey Osmond, were at the forefront of the biochemical approach in the 1950s as they began their treatment of schizophrenics with massive doses of niacin. The results were promising, but something happened which forced them into the background of mainstream psychiatry. The invention and marketing of phenothiazines, a tranquilizing drug which immediately dealt with some of the more disturbing symptoms of psychosis. Psychoactive drugs work within minutes. Nutrients and dietary correction take days or weeks to show benefits. Vitamins like niacin are inexpensive and easy to acquire, so there is little money in publicizing them. Many psychiatrists, frustrated for years at their inability to help the mentally ill with standard treatment methods, are overjoyed with the improvements that megavitamin therapy, dietary correction, and allergy prevention can affect. So we begin looking at this broad area that she referred to as biochemistry of crime. And we can very easily refer to this same cycle as the biochemistry of mental illness. We look now at the hypoglycemic cycle that so many who consume large amounts of junk food are caught up in. It begins with the fast absorption rate of sugar, sucrose, that leads the glucose levels to jump very quickly. The body is expecting a gradual rise and not a jump, producing insulin in the pancreas. Insulin acts to take excessive glucose out of the system, stores it in the liver as glycogen. More and more glucose is taken out of the system until sugar level drops drastically low. Symptom of low sugar is hunger and the craving of sweets. Once sugar is consumed, the hypoglycemic cycle starts all over again with the fast absorption rate, and this continues through. Molecular starvation due to lack of blood sugar leading to poor brain function. As the blood sugar drops, the cerebrum, the area of the brain responsible for thought, learning, and moral and social behavior, starts to shut down, and the brain diverts its dwindling brain resources to the brainstem, which controls the more primitive responses. The drives for food and sex, aggressive and defensive instincts, thus exhibiting apprehension, trembling, sweating, vertigo, loss of coordination, irritability, confusion, and amnesia. In severe hypoglycemia, these symptoms may be a prelude to complete blackouts. Long periods of time in which the person walks and talks and may appear perfectly normal, but from which they awake with no memory of what went on. The corrective action here that is a place to begin with is the elimination of all foods that contain high fructose corn syrup, which comes under many names, and all of their names are not listed here. But sometimes it'll be called natural corn syrup or isolated fructose, maize syrup, glucose fructose syrup, tapioca syrup, which is not a corn base, but it's also fructose, and just called fruit fructose. It's remarkable what that will do for one's health is to remove this one product by carefully reviewing what's put into the items that you're eating. Hypoglycemia and severe mental illness and connections to alcoholism. Robert Mears estimates to the prevalence of hypoglycemia among schizophrenics to be about 70%. In one study of 133 psychiatric patients, 74% were hypoglycemic. Researchers under the guidance of Dr. U.A. Register was able to induce the craving for alcohol in rats simply by feeding them a diet high in sucrose. Paulo Stoddard and Karen, in a study of 200 alcoholics, found that 97% of this group were hypoglycemic compared to 18% in the control group. Okay, let's leave the hypoglycemia and now look at nutrient deficiency as part of the biochemistry of crime. According to Linus Pauling, mental disease, usually associated with physical disease, results from a low concentration in the brain of any one of the following vitamins: thiamine, B1, nicotinic acid, nicotinamide, B3, B6, B12, B7, also referred to as vitamin H, biotin, ascorbic acid, vitamin C, and others like folic acid, L-glutamic acid, uric acid, amino butyric acid. And these are all from Pauling's orthomolecular psychiatry text. While niacin is one of the most popular psychoactive vitamins. In addition to this, deficiencies in vitamins B1, B2, B6, B12 have been linked to depression and other mental problems. Deficiencies in B12 can lead to a host of psychotic conditions. Schizophrenics often show vitamin C deficiencies and are frequently helped by megadoses. Highly processed foods are low in vitamins. Vitamin B deficiency causes violence. Symptoms include fears, fatigue, depression, paranoia, confusion, hostility, rage, and anxiety, with specific feelings that something dreadful is about to happen. So from nutrients, we move now to toxins and heavy metals. Many people respond to caffeine as a toxin, and they are allergic to caffeine, and just a little bit of it can throw their system off. People have to monitor their own responses to these toxins. MSG is another that some people seem to tolerate extremely well, while others are really debilitated by just small amounts of it. All of the heavily refined, sweet cereal products are filled with toxins and heavy metals. In addition, the food dyes, and this is not included in Barbara Reed's review. This came out in 2012 in the Journal of Environmental Occupational Health. And I quote, "The review finds that all of the 9 currently US approved dyes raise health concerns of varying degrees. Red 3 causes cancer in animals. There's evidence that several other dyes also are carcinogenic. 3 dyes, red 40, yellow 5, and yellow 6, have been found to be contaminated with benzidine and other carcinogens. At least 4 dyes, blue 1, red 40, yellow 5, and yellow 6, cause hypersensitivity reactions." And I know from personal experience with a client with a very strong response psychiatrically to red 40, where would see the dye in any food at all and would just cringe. They would have a response just by looking at it because they were essentially traumatized by that response. It made them extremely paranoid. And this was just a 4-year-old boy I'm talking about. So in addition to the food dyes, the heavy metals of aluminum, lead, mercury, and the treatment is to chelate the heavy metals out of the body. Chelation therapy is a treatment that uses medicine and other substances to remove these metals so they don't make you sick. Another factor that influences the biochemistry leading to crime and mental illness are allergic reactions. Food allergies can provoke lethargy, stupor, disorientation, agitation, rage, panic, convulsive seizure, coma. How allergies lead to antisocial behavior remains a mystery. For some people, the adaptation may go so far that their bodies become accustomed to the offending substance. They must have it, or they develop withdrawal symptoms. The body learns to need a substance that is actually harming it. Common allergies in approximate order include milk, wheat, corn, coffee, egg, potatoes, orange, beef, pork, yeast. And one can do a self-test by removing the suspected item from the diet for 3 days, consume a full portion of the item, and observe bodily response. Note changes in energy level, mood, concentration, digestion. So the links between diet and criminal behavior. The pattern is linked to high rates of criminal behavior. We see that there's no breakfast eaten in the morning. The high consumption of sugar and other refined carbohydrates. High consumption of processed foods. Low consumption of protein. Low consumption of fruits and vegetables. High consumption of milk. Hypoglycemia rates among inmates can run as high as 85%. From Moses Maimonides, no illness that can be treated by diet should be treated in any other manner. Most carbohydrates should be complex carbohydrates, high in fiber, like brown rice, oats, whole grain breads. Simple sugars should be kept to a minimum, including high fructose corn syrup, as we've discussed. Protein derived from whole grains, legumes, beans, lean meats, vegetables, eggs, fish, turkey, chicken, pork, beef, hard-boiled egg, nuts. Snacks can include sunflower seeds, almonds, popcorn, almond, cashew, peanuts, sesame butter, beef jerky, fruits, berries, avocado, cantaloupe, apple, banana, apricot, grapefruit, oranges, kiwi, lemon, lime, pears, mango, dried or fresh, asparagus, broccoli, carrot, corn, cucumber, sauerkraut, snow peas, celery, radishes, just to name a few. And we close with a look at a sample meal plan that would include waking up and drinking 8 ounces of water with 4 ounces of fruit, vegetable, tomato juice, something to get the juices flowing in the stomach. And breakfast within 20 minutes of the juice. Eggs, whole grains, fruit, oats, herb tea. 1 hour after breakfast, a glass of water and a mid-morning snack with nuts, dried fruit, and vegetables. Another glass of water 1 hour after the snack. Lunch, high protein food from the list we discussed, salads, slice of toast, 1 hour after lunch, a glass of water, high protein dinner, cooked and raw vegetables, fruit for dessert, late evening snacks every 2 hours before bed as needed, and of course, drinking water throughout the day as needed as well. Thank you for joining us today at Psychological Explorations. We look forward to having you come back for future presentations. Like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.